Hello, everybody. Today we're going to take a look at another state for 2024. This time it's going to be the last frontier, and that is going to be Alaska. Now, this state is a little bit different. There's just not the same kind of data readily available as I did in my other states. It's tricky, so because of that, there's going to be a little bit less to take a look at, but in exchange, we could go a little bit quicker. So we can look at the usual maps. On the left side, we've got the presidential shifts between 2012 and 16. Nationally, there's a lot of red on here. However, Alaska, as I said, there's just not much data here, so there's really no lines to take a look at. The right map has the shifts between 2016 and 20. Nationally, there's a lot more blue on the map, and in Alaska, we actually see some blue lines this time. So the state has become a little bit more competitive over recent cycles. It's a huge state in terms of land, but its 3 electoral votes are not expected to be actually competitive in this election. So let's go through a little bit of the recent history. Let's start back in the 2012 election. There, Mitt Romney wins the state by 14 points. He's at 54.8. Barack Obama is at 40.8. And if you look at this map on the right, we can see there is a lot of blue and a lot of red. But let's go in a little bit closer on this map. Now, Alaska uses boroughs instead of counties. So boroughs are roughly equivalent to counties, and you can take a look at all the names on the left. However, the one main thing to point out is the yellow color. That's actually considered an unorganized borough, and it actually comes out to about 1/2 of the state's land. So to make it a little bit easier, I'm only going to go over a few of these boroughs. The most populous here is Anchorage, and that has the state capital, and that's colored blue because it's considered a city borough. So there's about 40% of the state's population that lives in this borough, and on this map it's red. The second most populous is right north of it. That is Matanuska-Susitna, and that has less than half the population of Anchorage. And the third most populous is a little bit northeast. That is Fairbanks North Star, and that has the city of Fairbanks. So all 3 of these populated boroughs voted for Romney. There is a lot of blue on here, but the population density is a major factor. There's just much less people in the bluer parts of the state. Now, one other thing that might be relevant for this state is the demographic breakdown. This map has the racial or ethnic breakdown, and Alaska does have a relatively large native population. Those are the places that are colored in red. Green on this map is considered Asian population, and the blue is considered white population. So keep that in mind for some of these presidential voting trends. So with some of those locations in mind, let's jump ahead 4 more years and see what happened in 2016. There, Donald Trump improved on Mitt Romney's margin. He won the state with over 51%. Hillary Clinton did 4 points worse than Obama. She's down to 36.5. This time there's a large third-party vote led by Gary Johnson with 6%. But if you total up all the third-party vote, it's about 12%. So technically both Trump and Hillary did worse than Romney and Obama, but Hillary lost just a little bit more than Trump, and that pretty much all went into the third-party vote. Now, as I said a couple of times, a lot of the data here is not available for Alaska. Normally we would go through some of the counties or the boroughs, but it's just not here for Alaska on New York Times. So we're going to just jump ahead 4 more years to take a look at the last election in 2020. There, Trump wins the state again by 10 points. He got close to 53% to Biden's 43. This time there's a lot less third-party vote. So with that reduction, Trump gained about 1.5 points. But this time, Biden went up significantly by 6 points. So this is a much narrower margin, and the trends have been toward the left. Now we can go down here and take a look at the map. However, this is not the county map. These election districts are the state house districts. So it can be confusing. I don't want to make it more difficult, but there's a similar red and blue divide that we saw in the 2012 map. The thing I will point out is in the most populous borough of Anchorage, Romney won that by 10 in 2012. Then Trump still won it by 5.5 in 16. But this time, Biden was able to flip it, and he won it by about 2 points. So if the borough with the most population has gone to Biden, that's certainly going to be a concern for Trump going forward. Now, if you go down here, you could take a look at these individual districts. There are 40 of them. Again, it's not the same as the boroughs, so it makes it more tricky. But overall here, there's kind of a mix. Some of them are close, and some of them Biden and Trump won by a ton. So I'm going to move along and go back to 2016. We weren't able to take a look at it a minute ago, but this will show you even more detail. Yet again, it does not show you the borough data, but you can hover over all these to see the individual districts, and if you pull all the way in, you can take a look at the individual precincts. So here's downtown Anchorage, and Hillary winning most of these by a comfortable margin. So you can take a look at more of this if you'd like, and I usually show more shifts, but that data is just not here this time. So we're going to move along to the turnout, and nationally, it was up across the country, and in Alaska, there's actually no data here. It's disappointing that they can't get the data on here, but I get it, it's an unusual state, and there's a lot of mail-in ballots. Now, another thing that could matter are the shifts among specific demographic groups. This is the national exit polling for 2020. It shows the biggest shifts for specific demographics, and if you scroll down further, it'll break it down in a bunch of different ways. You've got age, education, race, religion, etc. They don't have specific exit polling for Alaska. One other critical thing to point out here for Alaska is ranked choice voting. If you're not familiar with it, here's a quick PDF from the Alaska election site. They will be using it for all offices in this upcoming election. In short, this ensures that anybody that wins an election will win with a majority of support. So if nobody gets to 50% plus one, then the candidate with the least amount of votes is eliminated and their votes are reallocated into the remaining candidates. It can be a little tricky, but it is something to mention for Alaska. And if you go back to 2022, here's how ranked choice voting played out. In the U.S. Senate, in the first round, Lisa Murkowski did not get to 50% of the vote, but in the final round, she won with almost 54 to Kelly Shabaka's 46. For governor, Mike Dunleavy was able to win outright because he just cleared 50% in the first round. And in the U.S. House District, Mary Peltola started with 48.8% in the first round. Once everyone else was eliminated, she was able to secure a 10-point margin of victory. There are some differences of opinion on it, but that is something to keep in mind for this presidential election in Alaska. Now, the last thing we could do is take a look at how accurate the polling was in 2020. Again, Donald Trump won the state by 10 points. However, the aggregate polling had him ahead by about 7. So Trump was underestimated there by a few points. But it's Alaska, it's going to be a difficult state to poll. Plus, when you add in ranked choice voting, that can make it even more complex for this election. If you look at the individual polls, every one of them did have Trump in the lead. So not exactly competitive, but it was more competitive than previous elections. So what is the conclusion for Alaska? Well, this is an interesting state. It's pretty much out of the way. A lot of people don't really think about it, but they have their electoral votes like any other state, and it's clear the state has recently trended toward the left. Now, it does have to go more for it to be considered competitive. So there is a chance, especially with ranked choice voting, that it could get down to single digits. That would be more likely in a blue wave type of scenario. But the big unknown factor is going to be the level of third-party vote. If there's 4, 5, 6 candidates on the ballot, that could spread it out to where it makes things less known. I would at least expect Trump to be able to win the state under reasonable circumstances. But there's no guarantee that the state can't keep trending left over the next few cycles. But there is a lot going on here in Alaska, even though it's not one of the major battlegrounds. They don't necessarily make it super easy with the lack of data, with boroughs, with ranked choice voting, but it's a unique state that has some oddities, and it's one that could pull in a significant amount of third-party vote. So we'll see where the chips land when everything's all said and done. But that's a little bit of a recent overview of the political history for Alaska. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about this state? Have you ever been to Alaska? Which way do you think the different boroughs and the different demographics are going to trend? And could this state become potentially competitive in the future? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.